Tonight, we're back again with PM Express, but with the same old story about the presidential jet and the saga, which is coming up this time round around President John Dramani Mahama, but is not the center stage or perhaps the beginning of the whole story regarding the president's itinerary, because in recent history, it's become a whole controversy as to why there's a hesitancy on the part of most leaders in recent history in using Ghana's presidential jets. So let's get to it then and look at the recent history and as to why, of course, in the last few hours, Parliament has been minded to stoke up the conversation again about why President John Dramani Mahama is not making use of the Falcon, the presidential jet. We'll get to it shortly. But this is the man who, of course, brought up the conversation in recent history, because if you're talking about controversy surrounding the presidential jet, we could go as far back as President Kufuor's era, of course, where concerns were raised, a reason for which this Falcon we're talking about was purchased. But we're going back just to the erstwhile administration of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, where, of course, comparisons are being made today as to why John Mahama does not want to fly the presidential jet in his capacity as the, of course, head of the National Security Council. We'll get into all of that, but I was talking earlier about this very man you see in your picture here, who's now been nominated, coincidentally, to become Ghana's foreign minister. This is Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, who was concerned then about President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's use of the private jets for his presidential travel. At the time, the Northtown lawmaker was making the clear argument that if you look at how much Ghana was paying for a single presidential flight, that's way above $15,000 US. And of course, his permutations is based on the hourly charge that was, of course, being made at the time with regard to the presidential travel of President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. $15,000 is what Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa pegged those figures out. Of course, those figures were not denied, neither were they confirmed by the Akufo-Addo administration. And I want to get into it straightforward for you so you get a sense of what was done under the erstwhile administration. When the whole topic and controversy around the presidential jets came up, these were the key responses Eugene Ahin at the time, of course, issued and gave us some clarity as to what the administration was thinking about the presidential jet. At some point, the defense minister himself then, Dominic Nitiwul, had to appear before Parliament and to explain what exactly was happening to the president's itinerary. Let's get into it then, because at some point, the Falcon, we understand, was serviced in France. We're not, of course, told beyond what the security classification will detail to us. All we needed to know at the time was that there was some retrofitting that was done in France, according to the erstwhile administration. The next point also to take note of is that the current presidential jet, according to one man who may be joining us tonight, Dominic Nitu, as I'm told, will be on the show with us tonight. He will clarify that for us shortly. In fact, he's on already. He told Parliament, for instance, that the presidential jet was not large or convenient enough for then President Akufo-Addo. We'll get into the details for you shortly. But there's also the point about what was happening as far as the considerations were underway, which Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, the foreign minister nominee at the time, fiercely called for. That there should be a nationwide or a national conversation on what was going to happen to the future of presidential travels. Are we going to acquire a new or a bigger presidential jet? That was the question at the time. And of course, he was calling for frantic discussions on what was going to happen. But of course, that did not happen simply because of the politics that was happening at the time. The NPP had felt that the president was safe and secure with the arrangements that were made for him, whilst the Falcon was being serviced in France. Of course, others like Okudzeto and the others held the view that let's open up the conversation and see whether or not we needed a bigger presidential jet. That is not settled, and we'll be telling you why the conversation keeps coming back. But the fourth point that you need to take a look at was the cost of the presidential travel at the time. Because if you take a look at what Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa was telling us at the time, 15,000 United States dollars per hour could mean that the country will be coughing up so many millions and if not billions of US dollars by the time the president will be ending his tenure. And for a reason for which, of course, that argument is being made that let's have a national conversation on the presidential jet. At least we know that the Falcon is back after servicing in France. What's the status of it? That's what we're not being told tonight, obviously, for the last reason that the erstwhile administration also gave, that this is a confidential matter. The president's travel cannot be discussed in public. At least we can talk about the cost. But the point is, you can't go any further because of national security implications. But we'll lump all of these issues together and look at the implications tonight. But the conversation is now being stoked on social media and, of course, in Parliament today because of some of the recent travels of John Dramani Mahama. We're told that he's been to the United Arab Emirates already. And he's done that commercially, as being confirmed by the Roads and Highways Minister. In fact, the Finance Minister has also been on the floor today defending why the president decided to opt to go commercial. Are there security implications? We'll get into it. But of course, Ghanaians started talking when President Mahama visited some West African neighbors, Senegal, Gambia. Of course, we saw those pictures with a private jet. The claim then was that this jet actually belongs to his brother. He's not confirmed, he's not denied. We're not able to tell if indeed that private jet indeed belongs to Ibrahim Mahama, who's the brother to the president. All of that, he needs to perhaps be minded and would want to make some comments on that if he indeed wants to confirm that for us. But speculation is rife that that is his private jet. We're not in a position to confirm that because we don't have the travel documents. Beyond that as well, we're now beginning to compare the conversations that are coming up. If you take a look at the arguments that were made when Samuel Kujitua-Blacko made the point about the 15,000 US dollar argument per hour for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we were told that there was a confidential travel. Now, John Mahama, as the president, has done some travels. At least we've seen him publicly doing the travels with some other commercial jets. Senegal, Gambia, as we know it recently. But the response now we're getting from the presidency is that there are two things that we need to be mindful of. The fact that this is coming at no cost at all to the state, although the president is indeed being confirmed now to have traveled outside the use of the private jet. Then also, there's the point about the review, which is currently taking place by the Ghana Air Force, which we understand they're supposed to, of course, submit a report and update the president on the safety or the status of the presidential jet. But the argument is being made tonight also forcefully by the minority that as far as the presidential jet is concerned, it is safe for travel. Is that the case? Is there anything we need to know? And that's why we're having the conversation, because the perspectives on this matter have been varying. Of course, then I was talking about the finance minister earlier. He's claimed that, of course, President Mahama flew to the UAE on an Emirates flight. That's the claim of the finance minister. And take a look at this. If you're looking at the permutations in terms of possibly what the cost might be to the state, then here's it for you. 216,518 Ghana cedis. Is that anything to compare to what was done with the 15,000 US dollars per hour? Well, that's a different conversation to be having. But as far as we're concerned, this is the commercial implication of having the president fly at least the premium if we were to go by market permutations per that commercial arrangement that was done for the president. So the question is indeed rife that even if this is not coming at a cost to the state or to the taxpayer, President Mahama's UAE flight alone would be costing us way beyond 200,000 Ghana cedis, I should say. The permutations are out there. The conversation is out there. But all we're seeking to do tonight is to unpack the hesitancy that we're clearly seeing from all of these presidents. The inability to trust or perhaps use the presidential jet. Why is that the case? And what's the implication for national security? We'll get into all of that for you here on PM Express. I'm Blessed Sugan. Stay with us. When we return, we'll speak to the former defense minister who argues that the NDC administration is not being truthful to Ghanaians on the status of the presidential jet. Then we'll get into the security implications of it. Stay. We'll be back. Thanks for staying with us here on PM Express on the Joy News channel. This is brought to you by Syntex Tanks. It is strong, it is tough, and of course, we're being supported by Academic Times and the Pepsodent Cavity Fighter toothpaste. Of course, tonight we have very well-vexed individuals who understand the nuances and national security implications for the presidential travel, especially when the first gentleman of the land is not doing so with the presidential jet. I want to start off with the former Defense Minister, Dominic Nitiwul, who's joining us back on the show tonight. Thank you so much, sir, for spending some time with us here on the Joy News channel.
Thank you very much, and good evening. Good evening to my co-panelists. Let me apologize a little bit for my inability to join you in the studios. I would have wished. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that because of circumstances beyond my control. But right. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to discuss this thing in good spirit and discuss it maturely, and discuss it as a nation.
Indeed, we'll be getting into the details of it, but I just also need to point out that we have the Wild West MP, who is a former superintendent of police, Peter Tubu, MP for Wild West, also joining the conversation because earlier he was pointing out to me how he had wanted to draw the speaker's attention to some critical points he had on this issue of the presidential travel. And then we'll have Richard Kumado also join us. He's a security consultant, all helping to shape the conversation tonight. But let me start off with you, Mr. Former Defense Minister, because you were on the floor today earlier raising the concerns you had with the explanation coming through from the presidency on the use of the presidential jet. Let's get into it. Why do you feel that there's lack of sincerity on the part of this administration when they say they've given clear orders to the armed forces to provide an update on the status of the presidential jet?
So first of all, they are not my words when you say that I'm saying that there's lack of sincerity. What I did say, and let me repeat, the presidential jet is in good order. In fact, the former president of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, used this presidential jet either on the 22nd or 23rd of December to Takoradi, because we had to go to Nzelebu to commission a naval base, and he used this jet. I was there. Same thing he used on 29th to Kumasi. So I'm aware that just a week before he handed it over, he was using this jet, because we have taken this jet in 2023, the latter part of 2023, I think mid-year 2023. It stayed almost up to March. We're expecting it in February. It didn't come because of the amount of work it needed to do. A lot of fuel issues. The fuel lineage was giving it problems. That's one of the reasons why the former president had to do an emergency landing in the US. And so it was a bit not wise to be using it frequently as we have wished. And we needed then to take it to France. We did take it to France in the middle of 2023. It stayed there till March, somewhere, I think, and almost March it came back. And since then, the president has been using that aircraft and no other aircraft. Well, my concern is that it's in good shape. Why are they not using it? But the president recently went to Boko and then to Nalego and used military facilities, the same military facilities. He used the MI-17, that's the military helicopter. So why do you, in one hand, you have not received the report you did ask for the security, the Ghana Air Force, and you could use the helix to travel, but then the jet, you will not use it. That's their choice. But as I said, I'm not going to politicize the issue of the president's travels, because trust me, I still hold the same views that it is wrong for us to have a presidential jet that is in good condition and the president will not use it. I also think that it is wrong for our number one. I also think that it is wrong for our number one citizen to have a presidential jet that can be used around. That's the purpose for which we purchased it. He decides that, well, even I'm doing government duties, I'm not going to use it. I don't agree with that. Let me give you the scenario. If the president were to be invited to South Africa, for example, to go to a state visit or an official visit, for example, or Ethiopia for AU meeting, or even to go to ECOWAS meeting, and the jet is unavailable, what would the president do? Will he go by Ethiopian Airlines to South Africa? When other presidents are coming, for example, and they are supposed to take all the salute, and you are supposed to land at the military base. For example, if you go to South Africa, you will not land at Joburg, the commercial base. You will land at the military base. What are you going to do? Will our president travel by commercial because we did politics with the presidential jet, even though that presidential jet is available? I think that we should have this conversation around it. The jet is there. It's in prime condition. I think we should use that jet. If you know how...
On what basis do you make the claim that the presidential jet is fit for purpose, particularly when you're confirming to us now that it was returned from France in the wee hours of the erstwhile administration that you served in? What document do you have to back the claims you're making?
I never said it's returned in the wee hours. I said it's returned in March 2024, and the president of the republic then, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has been using it ever since that time up to now. And I even give you specific dates that on the 23rd of December, he went to Takoradi with it. In fact, he's been using it traveling around the world, traveling to ECOWAS meeting, going to Nigeria, going to Ethiopia, going virtually everywhere. The UN meeting in September, that's the jet that he used. And I'm saying to you that it is not the wee hours. I'm saying to you, it returned somewhere in March. I just mentioned to you that it went in the middle of 2023 and came back somewhere in March 2024 after complete overhaul. Everything was checked. We put it in prime shape. And so the president started using that.
And my question to you is,
he was using it before.
What document are you relying on? What document are you relying on to say?
I was the minister. I was the minister of defense.
Yeah, you were the minister. The concerns were raised. The concerns. I'm sorry for cutting through. The concerns were raised in Parliament. You appeared before Parliament, told Parliament that the presidential jet was not fit for purpose. In fact, you raised other points about convenience and the inability of the president. I need to use this to shower in the jet. These were claims you raised on the floor of the House. You did not return to Parliament to give Parliament a full update on the status of the presidential jet. You agree? No document to back that.
I said to you at that time that the presidential jet had developed a problem, was not fit for purpose. That's what I said. And truly true to what I said, we took it to France in the middle of 2023, somewhere either June or July. We worked on it. It returned we were expecting it to have finished very quickly within 6 months. But we couldn't. It took like 8 months, and we worked on it well. Since then, since the middle of virtually almost a year ago, because March that it came back, the president then had been using that aircraft. That's the point I'm making, that March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, 10 months prior to his handing over, he's been using that jet. So it's not the wee hours. That's the first thing.
Yeah, if a jet is being used, I was asking for documents to back the claim, because there you have it. The NDC side disagrees with you. In fact, the presidency says they need a report on the status of the jet. You agree that as of now, ever since the retrofitting was done, there's no report on your table as Minister for Defense upon exiting to prove the status of the presidential jet. You agree? That's all I want us to agree on.
I don't know what report you are looking for. Whatever report that the government needs, the Air Force has that report, and I'm sure by now they've presented that report to them. It doesn't take years to present whatever
you've seen that report?
That the history of the jet.
You've seen that?
I know for a fact that report has always been there. I know for a fact that report has always been there. The history of the jet. They put it together, and whoever is looking for it, they will present it to you. All I'm saying now is that since March, the jet has been serviceable. It was being used by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. It is still serviceable. That's all I have said to you.
Okay, we need to place on record as well.
I was the one who paid for it.
Right, I get it. We also need to put on record that the president has not used this jet for any travel beyond 5 hours. You'd agree with me on that, correct?
I'm saying to you that the President of the Republic has been using this jet since March. And the President has traveled to the
you've made to
UK,
me.
has traveled to France. He has traveled to France. He has traveled to France of it. France is more than 5 hours. He has traveled to France of it. So it is not correct what you are saying. All I seek to say is that this jet is in prime condition. The then President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has been using this jet, and he continued to use this jet and handed it over. It's a choice of the current president not to use it. I'm not begrudging him. All I say is that this jet is in good condition. He should use it. If he has other reasons for not using it, I don't know why. And I'm saying that he used the military helis to travel. If you put this jet and you put the heli, I'll pick the jet first. So if the same military facilities, you didn't receive the report, but you travel to the heli and say you will not travel with the jet, I don't know why you would do that. But that's his choice. And I don't even know why we're having this conversation on that particular issue. I thought it was about the general idea about the country having the ability to be able to represent the country.
I get that. I was just building.
I'm not into.
Yeah,
I don't want to do.
I get your point. I was just building up the point because of the debate we saw on the floor of the House today. That's basically why I was bringing that up.
I'm coming. I'm in the middle past Minister for Defense. I don't want to drag the military access and ability into the public debate. I do not want to questioning the role of the military and what the military needs to do or shouldn't do. It's the duty of this current, the military to protect the president by land, by sea, or by air. It's the duty of the current Ghana Armed Forces to ensure that our president is safe. And I'm saying to you that I am aware that the jet is in prime condition. I am aware that the president has used military aircraft before, the helicopter, for example. The president chooses not to use the jet. He should explain to the people of Ghana why he will not use the jet, but will use the military helicopter. And I'm saying to you that the issues around the jet were politicized for whatever reason. I don't think that it is right. And I've said to you before that I'm not sure that it is a good thing for me to insist that President Mahama should not get another jet to travel for official duties, especially into other African countries, and especially for serious government business, not private business.
Yeah.
Serious government business.
I get it.
I will not be fair to myself, and I think that it would be wrong for me to say that if this jet is not available, the president cannot get another jet to be able to travel.
But as far as you're concerned, it is available.
Because I know
it
that
is
when President Mahama was in power, I know, for example, that when President Mahama was in power between 2013 and 2016, he did charter on several occasions private jets to use. You can ask him himself, he will confirm it to you, that he did do that. He knows that he used Global Express before he did. So I don't want us to have that conversation. Ghana is so important as a country in West Africa, in Africa, and the world, for us to be talking about whether the president should have chartered the jet, shouldn't have chartered the jet. If we work in defense of foreign affairs, and Honorable Okujoto will realize too early, and history will judge all of us, that what he did, if he knew before that he was even going to be foreign minister, he would not do what he did. Because his own staff would tell him that, I think that you made a mistake. Okay. When he begins to travel and move and diplomacy catches up with him, he will realize that no, some of the things he said were not things that he should have been saying. But he's done them already. NDC has taken up a position. Maybe that's the reason why the president is finding difficulty in using this jet and has to be doing some of the things he's doing. It is up to them to do that. But I say to us that we should look at cutting costs in other areas as well. It's not about presidential jet alone.
Okay.
If it's about cutting costs and trying to make sure that the people of Ghana get in, there are several other areas that as a country we can cut costs. But I say to you that no country should joke with the commander-in-chief of their armed forces.
Okay,
no country should joke with the president of the republic.
Yeah, let's
no country should joke with the life of the president of the republic. No country.
Let's depoliticize the conversation now, since you want us to get there. And I'll be coming to Richard Kumado and the others who are joining us. But I want you to start off that conversation. Do we need a new presidential jet? Because you hinted, or perhaps took that conversation when you were defense minister.
So when I was defense minister, I went to parliament and that question was asked to me, and I said that I'm making consultations. And if I get to the point where I believe that we are ready to purchase a presidential jet, I will say it. The military has asked for presidential jet for a long time, a bigger presidential jet for a long time. In fact, President Kufuor's time they did ask for a presidential jet. We actually placed 2 orders and paid for 2 presidential jets, not fully, but we made deposits for 2 presidential jets. The Mills Muhammad administration decided to cancel the bigger jet and went in for the smaller one. And I'm saying to you that after my consultations around the country, after my consultations with everybody, I explained to the military that the timing for the presidential jet was not good enough. Today, it is up to the current administration to discuss with the military and find out when it is right for them to put up that question to the people of Ghana. But when I did my consultations within the party, with the general public, with the religious body, with the traders, everybody, people felt that we had gone through a very difficult period in the COVID region. We're just recovering from these difficulties, and there were difficulties in the economy. Yes, one day we will need it, but at that particular time, they felt that we should shelve that idea because of the negative propaganda it will generate, because of the fact that people think that the executive is insensitive, and say that, look, this can be discussed at a later date. So today, I am not the Minister for Defense. Somebody else is going to be the Minister for Defense. I think that conversation, we will hold it, but not today. I think at a later date.
Do we need a presidential jet? Being dispassionate, not being considerate of the economic times in which we find ourselves?
For where I sit as a former Minister of Defense, and for the jet that we do and for the type of government that we do, I don't think a country should have one presidential jet. Not presidential jet, should have one jet that is supposed to be for government, that does government business. But this jet, for example, is not expected to carry exclusively only with the president. If you ask the current speaker, he used it before, back when he used this jet to Nigeria last year, when he came back from the south, he used it to Nigeria before. It's carried many, many very important people. So I would say that in future, but not now, one day when the country is able to stand on its feet and things are good enough, we can consider this question.
Okay,
but for now, it's not for me to decide that. But just being pragmatic, it is not. The military would always advise you, and you can talk to any military person. The military will always advise you that for certain assets, always have a pair, not one.
I see.
Otherwise, you will end up having the problems we are having. You will end up having the problem we are having now, where you would then have to go outside, and they will not be in control of the facilities that is carrying their commander-in-chief. And I don't think that any nation should put itself in that situation where the military itself is not in control. Somebody else has to be the pilot. Somebody else has to be the cook who's cooking for the 7U. Somebody else has to be the not the ground crew, the co-pilot. Somebody has to be the crew within, and that person is not part of the military or not part of your national security. I think that we should really look at it as a nation. If you want to ask me my sincere view as a member, not a member of parliament, as a Ghanaian, but as a member of parliament and as a former minister and as a politician, I would say that after my consultations all across the country, it was very clear that the timing was not good enough for us to even discuss that topic.
Yeah, but then it was necessary. Let's bring in those who are also joining the conversation. The Wild West MP is with us. And Superintendent Tobu, you might want to have your take on that, because earlier you were pointing out to me how you had wanted to draw the Speaker's attention to some of the key concerns you have about the presidential jet.
Thank you very much, my brother. Good evening to you and good evening to your cherished viewers. I wish I was in the studio in person. Unfortunately, due to some unforeseen circumstances, I've not been able to make it. Let me say good evening to my brother, the former Defense Minister, Honorable Dominic Nitwul, Defense Minister for 8 good years. That is a good job done. I think probably we'll be reviewing his performance in due course to see what legacy has left behind for the youth to come and emulate. But so far, so good. I was very surprised that when the former defense minister appeared before us in Parliament, in making comments about the presidential jet, he spoke as if he was just walking from the Air Force base after receiving live briefing on the state of the presidential jet, and he was speaking so much on authority. And I was wondering, in security, if you are absent within the sector or within theater for 14 days, from the 7th of January to the 22nd of January today, it's about 15 days. He's been former defense minister for 15 days. And he should understand that after 15 days, the disconnect between you and security in reality is a huge gap. I can tell him as a matter of fact, for the past 15 days, the presidential jet, he spoke so much about the fact that it is in good state, or it's fit for purpose, has undergone some maintenance. Daily maintenance is a requirement to ensure that the daily integrity of the jet or the aircraft is in place. That notwithstanding, my brother, when you talk about the fact that President Mahama should start using the jet, these are standard protocols. Promotion beyond wing commander is political. So you don't talk about the president flying helicopter from Tamale to Bolga and compare that to flying with the Falcon, which is being piloted by very senior officers who are politically exposed. And as a matter of fact, when there is change in government, we need to set up security system and make sure that every pilot that will fly the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, we need to go through 2 security clearances. One is the top security clearance, and the other one is presidential support security clearance. I think we're all in this country. When Vice Marshal Samson Oje used to fly President Mahama, in 2016, when President Mahama lost the elections, you know what happened. It wasn't Samson Oje who was still flying President Nana Akufo-Addo, the then new president. It was somebody else. So, of course, if for 14 days the president is saying, let's ensure that the system works, these pilots must undergo the standard security clearance. These pilots must ensure that the aircraft itself, engineers might ensure that the aircraft is fit for purpose. After all, we all know that you can actually go and buy a brand new car from the shop and get to the house and you need a mechanic to come and fix 1 or 2 things on it. So if somebody's in the office and say, well, we are still waiting on clearance on that aircraft for us to be able to use it, and you say, oh yes, for cutting costs, we should go and use it. Don't just put costs against the security of the president.
I get that.
We are conscious. Let me just conclude on
this.
We are conscious of cutting costs, but we are also conscious of the fact that you are dealing with the security of the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. And the armed forces itself will be so conscious about flying a jet or a flight that is not assured of its integrity. I mean, he's left the place 14 days ago. Let's allow the system to work. I'm sure that flight is for Ghana. That jet is for Ghana. And when it is time for us to use it, we will definitely use it.
It's the alternatives.
And
apologies for catching through, but it's the alternatives that is stoking the conversation now. The point about what President Mahama is doing in the absence of the Falcon, right? You have the president traveling to Senegal, the Gambia, using a flight that we understand reportedly belongs to Ibrahim Mahama, the brother to the president. We haven't confirmed that. Have you confirmed from your stables if indeed that's his private jet? And we're being told that this is coming at no cost. But do the analysis for me. Free things are expensive, isn't it? That you have an individual who's gifting the commander-in-chief a presidential jet.
Thank you very much. In fact, President Mahama is so lucky to have a brother who could offer him that support in time of need. He's been flying his brother's jet at no cost to the state, but it is not free. It is at a cost to the brother. And I have even said, President Mahama, if for nothing at all, please take the cost of the fuel. Please take the cost of the security-related matters, landing costs and all that, so that it doesn't negatively affect your brother's business. And we are coming to promote the private sector as the engine of growth. And I think that as much as we appreciate the support from Mr. Ibrahim Mahama, let's use Ghana's money and resource him, reimburse him in a way. But Ibrahim Mahama says, no, please just go ahead until you get the presidential jet fixed and you can use it. And we so appreciate it. So it is a cost to Ibrahim Mahama, but at no cost to the state. And the president is so appreciative of what his own brother is doing for him. So you see, when we talk about security, the fact is that President Nana Akufo-Addo, let me say, candidate Nana Akufo-Addo then called in 2016, had private people who were managing his close protection security. In 2017, when he became president, he went to the Jubilee House with these private security people, and some of them have been dealing with him throughout the 8 years. So the fact is that if he's using a private jet, which belonged to his brother, I'm sure he's been using that private jet when he was even candidate Mahama. And he became President Mahama, and he's hoping that the state system will work to ensure that that jet that is required to be used by the president will be in form and in shape. And he will go back and use it and hand over his brother's jet. I don't think that this arrangement with the brother is a permanent one.
You are once a law enforcement agency, once a police, always a police, I believe. Your duty, as part of your duty as well, you're to check corruption, and indirectly, isn't it? Issues of conflict that may arise through the use of this private jet belonging, as you're confirming to us by your report, Ibrahim Mahama. Do you feel that the president will have those questions to answer if indeed he continues to use the private jet belonging to his brother? Obviously, there's a cost, as you're pointing out to us, issues of conflict of interest. Basically, that's the point I'm driving at.
Thank you very much. There is no issue of conflict of interest here. I think Ibrahim Mahama is a philanthropist known by everybody. He even opted during the time, some time ago, that he wanted to dredge the Odo River free of charge to the state. There are so many things that he's done to this country. I just remember just recently, a journalist who had a problem with his eye was flown to Dubai. He's opted to pay the cost of all that. He's a philanthropist. And if he does this to all other people, his own brother has become president, and the presidential jet, the status of it is not yet clear. And he says, please, you can use my own jet. That's why you were even using during your campaign when you were a candidate. Go ahead and use it until you are settled, then you hand it over to me. There is no conflict of interest in this. We are Africans, we are Ghanaians, and I think that social cushioning that we have from our extended family is a very beautiful one that even people outside Africa emulate and they admire. So what Ibrahim Mahama is doing for Ghana, what he's doing for President John Dramani Mahama, is an inspiration for all of us to always take care of each other. Let each person be the other's keeper. And together as a people, we can unite and build this country. Because what is it? Your brother has a jet. You are the president. The presidential jet is yet to be made available to you. And your brother says, because now you are the president, no, until you use what belongs to Ghana, I will not give it to you. No. He's done what every Ghanaian is praising him for. And I want to applaud Mr. Ibrahim Mahama for what he has done for his brother and what he's done for many Ghanaians and what he's done for Ghana itself. So I am appreciative. There is no conflict of interest in this. And I'm sure that this is not going to be a permanent trait. Very soon, when the presidential jet is up and running, you will find President Mahama using it. But he will not risk his life in something that has not gotten green tick. If there is a green tick, I'm sure the former Minister of Defense knows how these things work. We will not discuss the details on there, but I'm sure that President Mahama has been a commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces before, and it's not a problem.
Just do this for me in a minute, so then I bring in Richard Kumado. Do we need a new presidential jet now, having listened to the former defense minister?
The need for a new presidential jet will come from analysis on what is available.
Yeah, he's told us he's consulted. Clearly, the security experts, and you belong to that field, will tell you you don't need just one.
Yes, you may need even three. Do we have what it takes to buy an additional one? You see, what you need is documented. But what you are capable, when you are capable of meeting your need, then you activate that need. We may need one, we may need two, we may need three. But you have to wait until you are financially capable as a nation and you activate those needs. So I can say that, of course, we need it. But can we afford it? If we cannot afford it in an era where there are haircuts left, right, center, and the nation is grappling with huge debt, we cannot even service our own debt, then you have money to say you want to meet all your needs? It's just like you are owing somebody, and you are eating so well and you are growing fat. When he sees you anytime, he gets angry. If I owe him, you are not even paying, and you are eating so well. That is unfair. So let's cut our quota according to our size. At the right time, when the economy is booming, and you can see that the GDP is growing, all Ghanaians will say, please go for it, and we'll all go for it.
And at least we're getting confirmation now here on the Joy News channel that the finance minister is, giving us details of the presidential itinerary in the last few days to Dubai. The president has been to the UAE together with the finance minister. I want to bring in Richard Kumado because, Richard, there you see the quote on the screens. Quote, Mahama flew to the UAE on an Emirates flight. Clear security implications for the president and the finance minister, someone who's in charge of the finances of this country. It appears that's too risky, isn't it? Or it's a normal practice?
To some extent, some presidents across the group, particularly within the Africa jurisdiction, prefer to fly commercial. Remember, they are not sitting in the economic class. They might be given first class, or they might be in the business class. They might have weighed the risks involved before jumping on it. But if you take the conversation from where the former defense minister left off and where my brother Peter took it over, you can see this is an NDC NPP politics. And to the extent that they don't trust themselves, the level of hesitation and the level of agitation from both sides, you can clearly understand. What I did not understand, and I want to find out quickly, if you permit me, from the defense minister, is that couldn't we solve this problem when the transition was going on? That we have to wait for the transition before President Mahama asked for an update on the jet. As part of handing over, couldn't it be better if they hand over every asset under their command, including the updated versions of all assets, including the presidential jet, considering the conspiracies and the tensions?
And Richard, many will be wondering why you're doing the reverse burden. Knowing that, of course, and we know too well that you're deep within the intelligence sector. You see the likes of Bevlulate, someone who's very vexed in the matter, experienced, and the presidential advisor on national security himself, the former chief of staff, Prosper Bani there, and the others who were serving on the temporary committee that was set up by John Mahama himself on national security. All of these questions were not asked. Why then do you believe that the former defense minister should be the one providing the update?
No, it is the NPP government handing over to the NDC government.
Yeah, so but they should be asking the questions, isn't it?
No, I'm saying that they are handing over to, in terms of basic security protocol.
Right.
When I'm taking over from you, you hand over stuff to me, and I verify to confirm the status of whatever you are handing over to me. It is at that point that I will confirm that I have taken over A, B, C, D from you. So they have a duty and a responsibility to say, we are handing over A, B, C to you. I'm not blaming them, and I'm not blaming the former defense minister, but I'm saying that considering the fact that this is an NDC NPP politics as usual, will it not be proper and will it not be prudent that at the transition, they would have handed over every asset under their command to the new administration, including the status of the jet and the helicopters, rather than President Mahama taking over and be asking for an updated report on that regard. If you listen to what my brother Peter said, he's even extending the argument by adding to the background checks and the comprehensive updates on the pilots who were flying the jet. It means that it goes beyond just the jet, but it goes to do with the overhauling of the internal staff of who is going to be around President Mahama vis-a-vis the travels and many of those things on the helicopter or the flight.
Yeah, there's a bigger question I have for you, Richard. You put a question to the former defense minister. Let's see if we can get some answers, because those are very important questions. Former defense minister, any response to that?
So first of all, it's now handed over news. The assets, especially vehicles and aircraft that are serviceable and those that are not serviceable. When I use the word serviceable, it's those that can fly, if it's for aircraft, those that are airworthy and can fly. We did indicate that the Falcon is serviceable, it can fly, it's in top shape. That's why I said that the former president was using it. I even gave dates that he was using it. So we did that. It's now handed over news. We said it was not a question. It did not even come up, because it was there. Everybody knows that it was serviceable. Everybody knows that the former president was using it. So that is not even an answer.
Okay, that's not too clear. If you could just explain that for us. Did you emphatically provide that to the transition committee? Because the presidency is now saying they need a report from the armed forces. That would be disingenuous if indeed they had the report.
I'm saying to you that equipment that, especially vehicle equipment that are serviceable, whether they are vehicles, whether they are helicopters, whether they are aircraft like the Falcon, those that are serviceable, to say that those that can fly and are airworthy, we stated it in our handing over notes, including the Falcon,
including the presidential jet.
Including the Falcon, which is the presidential jet, that yes, it is serviceable, it's airworthy, it can fly. We did it. It's in our handing over notes. So that is not a question, and that's the reason why it didn't even come up. And that's why I stated that the former president was even using it days even before he handed over. But just to go back and state something else, the pilots that are flying on the, Falcon have been trained specifically to fly this aircraft. You don't just pluck somebody from somewhere and ask him to come and fly the Falcon. It's not like a car. Even a car, you have to train somebody. Even bicycle, you have to train somebody. These same pilots, when the same pilot flying President Mahama, he knows them very well. Akufo-Addo didn't change them because you cannot just go and train new pilots overnight. He knows. The former CDS, Samson Oje, was asked to stop for a particular reason. And let me state it very clearly. The president then, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, said that he thought in his mind it was wrong for the chief of defense staff to be flying the president. And I agree with him that it is absolutely wrong. Yes, he may have been a very good pilot, and he's a very good pilot. He used to fly when he was even chief of air staff, which I don't have a problem. Even some of us had a problem with it, and we still have a problem with it. But I don't mind if chief of air staff would even fly. But the CDS to be flying the president, I think that it is going too far. So the president said, no, you are now the CDS. I don't think that you should be flying the president because there are other capable people who are flying them.
Okay.
And they were the same people who were flying President Mahama. You can ask, the same crew. He never changed them because they are trained for it. So I don't know where this argument of looking at the people, their political background is coming from. Right. I don't think that is necessary. All I'm saying to Mr. Richard Kumajo is very simple. We gave in our handing over notes assets that are in good condition, assets that are not in good condition. Specifically to the presidential jet, it's in our handing over note that it is serviceable, it can fly, it's in good shape, and it can be used.
Okay.
He says that 14 days ago, it is normal. It's a normal thing that every morning before you fly an aircraft, the engineers will have to check it. It's normal. It's something when
for the sake of time,
you have no control. So it's very normal.
For the sake of time, do this for me in a minute, then I yield to Richard to wrap us up. If you have a message to President Mahama now, and I'm sure that the presidency is watching now, the claims you're raising about submitting the details in that handing over note, beyond that, a direct message to the president on the use of the presidential jet, because you're on the floor advocating for that. In a minute, what will be your message to President Mahama on this?
Well, I will tell him to stop using the brothers' jet. There is a jet that is serviceable. He should stop using the brothers' jet and use the jet provided by the Ghana Armed Forces that Armed Forces has control. If that jet is not available, it's not serviceable, and he wants to use the brothers' jet or any other jet, I will not have a problem. But as long as our jet is in good condition, it should let the armed forces protect him. That's what I will tell him. Secondly, he should forget about the politics of his own people and make sure that he puts Ghana out there. It will help him.
Right. Richard, you've heard the response.
Definitely, I've heard it. These are politicians. They are speaking as NDC, NPP politicians as usual.
Yeah, but Richard, I mean, to be fair,
these are politicians.
Politics will always happen, isn't it?
My brother Nitu is the one saying that President Mahama, that is his big brother. Peter Tobo, that is also his big brother. So the two of them are speaking to their big brother. If they leave your studios now, the things they will say will be different from what they are saying now. The point I want to make is that we love them. They are Ghanaians. They have served their country in various capacities. Ghana first. Due diligence is important. Presidential prudence is important. The security of the number one is important. Whatever we have to do to enhance our governance in terms of traveling modalities for our presidents, being it vehicles or being it private jets or whatever way we want them to travel. It is something we have to inculcate into our governance system, devoid of politics, passionately to ensure that the number one citizen of this country is safe at all costs.
Right. Richard, you're deep in the intelligence community. Do you have any outlook or perhaps looking into that crystal ball? Do you have any sources telling you perhaps President Mahama may be back into the Falcon soon?
Definitely, like My brother Nitihu said he has used it before. You remember the purchase of some of these aircraft and the controversies it brought. And even the cars President Mahama is using now. The question is, ask yourself, who provided him the car? Is it the same car he was using when he was the candidate, who has been a president before? What has happened to his residency? What has happened to the entitlement he has? Have we done it for President Kufuor? Have we done it for President Rawlings? Are we going to do it for President Akufo-Addo? I think when it comes to some of these dicey security intelligence conversations, the politicians will always not tell the truth. But I can tell you that knowing who President Mahama is, President Mahama, one of the characteristics of him is that you cannot predict him. And those who don't know him when he was a president, they should look at him carefully. You can't predict him. So tomorrow, you should not be surprised he jumps into the poker and is somewhere all over the place using it. But then again, he decides when to use it and when not to use it. So we should grant him that space.
Really, the president has a choice not to use it? Well, he's demonstrated that.
Definitely, because you know what, Blessed, we have not really enforced that particular aspect of our governance. And you ask yourself, what was our president doing with some of that stuff that do not belong to the state? And from what the defense minister said, has the state given our presidents the green light before they got into some of those things? And those who even have security clearance coming closer to the president into the inner chambers, have we done that as a nation? And what has been the security vulnerabilities we expose to the world? Those are broader conversations we need to have. And to the extent that we keep on making it politics, then you leave it to the hands of President Mahama or whatever be the situation to decide what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, indeed. But what we've established tonight, gentlemen, is the fact that there is indeed some hesitancy on the part of the executives and using our presidential jet. But I'm grateful to you, Richard Kumado, also to you, former Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwu, and to Peter Tobo, the MP for Wawa, for joining us in this conversation. Well, if they will all not use it, why not give it to the speaker or to Richard or maybe myself? You never know. But it's been a great conversation with all of you tonight. The conversation will indeed continue on social media. Join us on TV. And of course, we are your election headquarters. So don't forget about that. Get more news at myjoyonline.com. This has been PM Express with me, Blessed Sugan. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.